Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody to Outpost Gray. I am so excited to have you guys here. I see the chat is filling up. Cybersecurity Central. I've got a guest in the green room right now that is freaking out and it is making me laugh. James, always great to see you, number one. Love it. All right, so who am I? I'm your host, Jack Scott. And if you've made it here by accident, well, welcome to the show. This is Outpost Gray. It is a YouTube channel that is in collaboration with Grant Thornton Public Sector. And just to let you know, all of the content that is delivered here is all of my own amazing thoughts and opinions and not Grant Thornton's Public Sector's thoughts or opinions. If you are new, just so you know, every Thursday we go live at this time, 3:30 p.m. EST, and we do an hour show. And we either have one-on-one interviews, we have fireside discussions, kind of like the one we're going to have today, or we do panels. So definitely come back. If you're a repeat offender, I love having you guys here. Make sure to share this out and let's get some more people in here during this discussion. We're going to have a great show today, but one more admin thing, just so you guys know, next week, RSAC. I am so thrilled. I'm going to be there next week. But what that means for you is I'm going to be going live on location, doing interviews. So I'm going to be sending out a calendar so you guys know who I'm going to be interviewing and when, so you can hop on there and actually ask these leaders in the cybersecurity space some amazing questions. So stay tuned for that. That also means that next week's live stream on Thursday will not happen because we'll have intermittent live streams going on at RSAC. All right, so without further ado, let's talk about our guests today. We have got Eric Taylor, two of my really good friends, Eric Taylor and Stephen Semmelroth. These guys are big hitters in the cybersecurity space. If you don't know them, I'm going to be dropping their socials into the chat. You definitely need to follow them and get to know them. So we're going to talk about why is security so expensive, or does it have to be expensive? We're going to talk about some of the pitfalls of building a security program, some tips and tricks on helping you build a security program, maybe for your house, maybe or for your home, maybe for your small, medium-sized business. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get these guys on here. Oh my gosh, Stephen, Eric in the house. Stephen was literally, you were freaking out in the background. I thought he was going to flip out of his chair. Oh my God, that was awesome. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Stephen, you're muted.
Come on, we've been doing Zoom for how many years now? Come on.
I have the benefit of not being on an incident response this time. So I think I've got a leg up on Eric right now.
Yeah.
Eric, how many incident response are you doing right now?
I'm doing 4 at the moment.
Oh, wasn't it 6 yeday? So now we're down to 4.
We wrapped at 2, yeah. I've got 6 more in the sales process right now. So I'm just like.
Did you get any sleep last night?
No, I've clocked about 62 hours so far this week.
And that's not of sleep, everybody. That is of work. Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Well, we're going to be digging into kind of what you do. I'd love for you to share your back. Actually, let's do that. Let's kick it off, Eric. Talk a little bit about what you do, what Barricade Cyber does. That would be awesome.
So, of course, Eric Taylor, CEO of Barricade Cyber Solutions. We are a digital forensics and incident response company. Our whole goal is to come in when the crap hits the fan. You don't know what's going on. You need somebody by your side to help you sort it out and get your business back up and running. That's what we do.
Barricade Cyber Solutions, you have it there. Stephen Semmelroth, tell us how amazing you are. What do you do? And where are you? Because this is not your normal background. If anybody knows Stephen and has seen him on any live stream, he has pristine background with a pristine camera. So what's going on right here?
I'm actually in the office well, not this week, but today. I'm not traveling anywhere. I'm not at home. I'm in the office being a little bit social as I can be. And I'm the senior director of security here at Avant. And my role is effectively to help people get security into their own environment. So we're a technology distributor, and I came here because I wanted to lead the industry as best I could instead of just talking about leading. So I love this place. We're having a lot of fun and we're helping out a lot of people.
Yeah, and he runs marathons, half marathons, all of those things. And he does Ask Me Anythings as he's running them. You'll definitely have to check out, you guys need to check out both of their YouTubes. I'll get your informations and drop them in there, but you guys should follow them. Pretty good stuff. So let's first, before we really dive into talking about like security frameworks and everything, let's talk about what is security in this space. What does it look like? Because when people think of a security framework or implementing a security strategy within their organization, most of the time they start thinking about tools. They start thinking about maybe a SIEM or a SOC or an EDR. But I'd like to have each of you guys kind of explain what is security and how can organizations accomplish a very basic level of security strategy. And I'm going to kick it over to Eric first.
Uh-oh, I'm kicking it off. Here we go.
You are.
So security in a nutshell is being able to know what data you have, where is it at, and how is it being accessed and controlled.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know any of that stuff, you can't apply any sort of protections around it.
And how many organizations have you worked with that know where their data is, where it's stored?
Let's just say out of the over 300 cases I've worked in the past 2 years, one. And there was about 95% of the way there.
Wow.
Most of them are, they know about 10% of where their data and their infrastructure. We start mapping out, doing an IR, and they're like, we didn't even know about those devices. I'm like, how do you not know this stuff? Like, you're literally the CTO, you're the IT, you're the whatever. And so, I mean, I understand the owner maybe not knowing, but when your primary job is the technologist in the organization.
Yeah, we're gonna have to circle back on that and how we can fix that, if it's even possible to fix that. So Stefan, butting it over to you. What is this? What is a security strategy? What does that look like at the like basic level for an organization?
Oh gosh. So for the strategy, depending on which mental framework that we're looking at, usually what I bubble down to what security is by itself. It's an art and science of confidentiality, integrity, and availability for that enables a company to go to market and win. And it's that last piece that I think most companies forget about, because when we look at the vast majority of people that are in cybersecurity right now, the junior, the mid, or even some of the senior leaders, we all almost all of us grew up on the technical side, right? Find a technical solution to a people problem. And oftentimes the security strategy for smaller companies is actually finding a people solution to a people problem. So people, process, technology, and then how do you marry that up? And back to Eric's point, having run across hundreds of companies, they just we find an AS400 in the corner all the time. They don't know it's still there, right? Oh, there's a Windows XP box over there. What does it do? I don't know, but don't touch it.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you the number of times I've been helping a client like scope a pen test, and just scoping a pen test, we find stuff that they didn't know about because they're not working with CIS Control 1, right? Inventory your stuff. But yeah, so a lot of the strategy, I go, what is your attack surface, and start reducing your attack surface.
Yeah, so let's talk about the different strategies that we see out there, organizations attempting to do. We see a lot of, and not really strategies, I guess it would be probably frameworks, strategic approaches into it. Like we hear about defense in depth. That's one thing that and I want to dig in a little bit into that. We hear defense in depth. We know that the governance space, we saw the executive order go out last year talking about this whole zero trust. And that's another way of like securing our data. So let's take a moment. I want to talk about defense in depth and what that looks like. And your guys' thoughts. Are you pro defense in depth? Do you think it works, or do you think that where we're going within the threatscape, it needs to be shifted to a different way of looking at security? I will, Stefan, I'm going to have you answer this one first.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So Zero Trust was originally developed, as far as I know, by John Kindervag many years ago, right? Decades ago. And the concept generally says it's basically RBAC. So reducing privileges for everyone and everything down to only what is necessary, and validating that that access at the time of requirement.
Mhm.
And so as we start scaling back how we apply that, I like to give credit where credit's due. Sunil used Cyber Defense Matrix is awesome. So we go through NIST, identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and then we start overlaying applications, network, users, etc. Work all of that together, and then we start chopping off all the things that we don't need. So does the Finex computer need to be able to talk to a dev machine?
Mhm.
Probably not from a network level.
Mhm.
And then inside a host, does one memory process really need to talk to another one? Probably not. So starting to apply that mentality everywhere, not just at the user level, in order to scale down. So that's one of the mentalities, and then how you apply defense in depth, because that's more of protection side for zero trust. The defense in depth says, hey, we've already protected this. Now we need to start doing the rest of detect, being able to respond and recover, and then building a defensible pattern inside of it. So if we can't detect here, how do we get visibility? And then once we get visibility, when we see something wrong, how do we block, stop, shift traffic around? I'll try to keep it as short as I can go. Eric, you're up.
Yeah, Eric, you're up. Definitely lead with that. He's over there going, wish I had extra hours of sleep right now.
I told you I may get a little squirrely on this one today. So zero trust, I think it is a stepping stone by all means. For when you're inside your internal network, yes, zero trust, making sure your outside vendors has freaking zero knowledge about your data as much as possible is there. But I don't want to go down a massive rabbit hole of cybersecurity, because we can be there forever and a day. Like Stephen said, let's focus on some of the basics. And Jax, we could probably do another one of more in-depth conversations, but start looking at your firewall, look at your switches, look at your access points, things of that nature, and start again inventorying what you have, right? And start building out a whitelist of those devices are the only ones allowed to be in there. And then, like Stefan's saying, go in and start saying, okay, what's running on this machine, what's not running. 9 times out of 10, we find freaking software that hasn't been used in 4 or 5 years, aka Dropbox, if you will, or Box.com, that is syncing or trying to sync and beaconing to outside servers. And we've seen CVEs released before, even though your account is disabled, it will still upload to that cloud repository, potentially doing whatever with your data. So, get back to some of the basics. Only allow devices on your network, and stop using applications that are not approved. From starting to adopt a zero trust mentality.
I like that. Okay. So what I'm gathering from this, the very first step for an organization before they even start developing a security policy and procedures within their organization or security strategy is review the attack surface and inventory what you have. Would you guys agree with that? Like, that is the first thing. Okay. So my next question is, go ahead, Stefan.
So it's the first thing in an ideal state.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when I come in to help out clients, we know, like say let's go back to an old enterprise environment. They've got a domain controller that they haven't patched in 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to, Eric, I know, right? So like, we know that we can at least do some patching on that domain controller. If I've got a server admin, I might, hey, start patching that, go through your patching process if you've got one, while we go out and do this interviewing. So my takeaway here is I don't want people to think, newer people that are coming to the industry, to think that we can't start patching or we can't start doing stuff later in the process until we finish an inventory. No, we can do those in parallel, and we should be doing those in parallel.
I love that. That is
always be patching. Always be patching.
Oh my God. And we're going to talk about that, because patch management it seems like it's a challenging thing. Like, why is patch management so hard for organizations to figure out? Is this something that, as part of a security strategy, patch management, because it's so critical, can an organization do it organically, or should they outsource that? What does that look like? Eric, what's your thoughts on that?
No, we're getting triggered now. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen.
awesome.
Stephen was waiting for
Spicy.
this. Need to bring Jerry in here. Spicy. So in a small SMB, let's just say under 300 users, if you will, under 310 members in an organization, I think they just get busy and they don't patch. It's like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow or I'll do that next week. And then they think about a couple weeks later, like, crap, I still haven't patched the firewall. I still haven't done this. I still haven't done that. A lot of times when we come into an environment, they're understaffed and they may not have the specific training for X, Y, or Z. Right. So we've seen, I can't talk too much because of NDAs, but we've seen some people with sonic walls that they don't particularly say you need to be patched. They send it in an email and they tell you in the Sonic Wall Cloud Console. But if you don't ever log into that, you're just logging into the Sonic Wall. Most of the time, especially some of the TZ versions and things of that nature, they don't tell you, hey, we got a patch over here that you need to install, knucklehead. But having a routine patch management is very, very hard. It can be mitigated with some third-party tools. There's a ton of them out there. You just got to find out what's good for you. If you're not already using set policies in your GPO from your Active Directory, if you don't have that set up in your AD or in your Intune environment, if you're completely Azure cloud instance, if you don't have those policies set up and at least trying those out first, the quote unquote free crap you've already paid for, then yes, bolt on a third application if you need to, but start setting up patching policies and monitoring. At least some of your Windows devices will be there, and then that will be the bulk of your information patching done, at least the OS side. Some third parties and drivers come through, Microsoft as well, but then you have to worry about your Adobe and Firefox and Chrome and all that. But there's ways to handle that. So adopt some sort of patching policy and do whatever. I mean, I know a lot of objections are, what if it's going to break the server? Do it on the week.
Yeah.
Do it on the weekend.
Yeah.
And this is also a good thing. Test your backups.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such
a good time for a fire drill. But anyway, whatever.
And patch every week, patch as often as you need to. Do you want to add anything to that, Stefan?
Yeah. So I think the one, like Eric talked about, down like 300 users and below. So usually what I talk about with clients is when do you have a critical mass? When do you have an inflection point to where it becomes a company risk decision of dollars of doing this yourself or handing off to somebody else? And companies that subscribe to the hedgehog concept of we only do what we're best in the world at and everything else we outsource, that's an easy conversation. They're already tiered up for that. They're queued up for it. They want to go to somebody else. Usually one of the smaller, say, MSPs or all-in CSPs in order to really do that work for them. Sometimes they choose to expand, like if they have one or two IT people and then grow a little bit more. And they get in that weird point of you have the questions of how fast are you growing? What does your market look like? Are you in a market where your margins are crap and you can't afford to do this internally because you can't pay somebody to do it internally or pay overtime to do it on the weekends like we should be doing? In that case, we got to go to somebody that's the best in the world at what they're doing. You leverage all of their experience and let them do that work. And, it's risk transfer in some ways, but when you can do it at a dollar amount that makes sense and you're not putting yourself at risk, it can be awesome. It also can be super frustrating. So really evaluate and give yourself out clauses. And none of this is legal advice. Give yourself out clauses that allow you, if you need to shift, to do it without using force majeure.
Yeah. Great points. Okay, I'm going to bring up a question that was asked by Karen Peterson over on the LinkedIn side. I love this question. Interesting discussion around the cybersecurity buzzwords, zero trust and defense in depth. What is the practicality of implementing these within the organization? I think this is a great question. I think it depends on the organization. But yeah, Stefan, I'm going to pass that one to you.
Yeah, so the hard part... So sometimes in security, marketing gets hold of terms. So the hard part with zero trust is darn near everybody right now that does anything in security says, oh, we are so zero trust. We're the best at zero trust. I'm like, nah, bro, you're the best at this one itty bitty slice of zero trust. So like when we look at just the connectivity side, so like the old VPN and the CDN companies that are now trying to go into zero trust, and they say, we're zero trust all day long. And you go, no, you're zero trust network access. You're a VPN replacement. You're an element. You're one segment of zero trust. That's like saying, oh, we do IT, and the only thing that you do is like plug in cables. And I'm not knocking that. Like if that's your go-to-market, go for it. But the allegory there is not abusing the words in marketing. So you, like if you're going out and you're trying to evaluate these vendors, you really got to dig pretty deep to know what the heck it is that you're getting. And if you don't have your own mental model for what zero trust is and how you want to apply it in your own environment or your client's environment, then it's pretty easy to just fall into the marketing trap. And then, you know, as we look at defense in depth of building in the visibility and the triggering and the rest of the NIST model outside of the protection side, that's where it starts to get complex. And what I always come back to with clients is, where are you going as a company? How do you make your revenue? Are you expanding into new markets? Are you getting new clients? Are you trying to go to, like, instead of going just, you know, pure commercial, are you trying to go in the DoD sector? Because as you start looking at all of that, if you go all in on one tool and it doesn't enable you to go to your next market move, like we've lost it. So I try to tie, like, what is your business mission? What are your vision and your values? Use that as the guiding star to then come through and say, how do we enable zero trust? Because remember, security is there to allow you to go fast and allow you to go to market and win. So that's my thoughts on buzzwords.
Yeah, and zero trust is a major buzzword right now, and it's kind of frustrating. Anybody that's listening and doesn't fully understand zero trust, the best way of explaining it, first off, it's not a tool. It's not something you can just buy and an organization can come in and the next thing you know, you have zero trust. It's an architectural framework, and I like to say it's access management. It's access management like supersized out, like really honed in on access management as well as segmentation. Like, you know, you've got network, you've got micro segmentation. It's both of those combined where you do least privilege. And the easiest way of explaining is where you don't trust anything, you know, and like the moat and defense in depth, you know, you've got the moat, you've got the guard shack and all of those security measures. With zero trust, everything you have to go through, you have to use your SSO and you have to verify to get in there, and everything's segmented. So you might not even see or be on the entire network. So it's architectural framework. So it is something that takes a lot of time depending on the size of the organization, and it takes engineers to build it out. It's not something that can happen overnight. My thoughts on zero trust, though, I think that it's a great approach. I think that if it's done correctly with appropriate, because you can over segment, and that's what I'm seeing in this space is organizations will over segment or not segment their data correctly. But one of the ways you can move into zero trust is through like micro segmentation and or network segmentation, whichever way you want to go. And that can baby step you into going into zero trust environment. I think that if it's done correctly, it can be more secure, especially for HVAs, high value assets, and certain data that you're wanting to keep completely off the network and avoid from getting impacted should a breach occur. And so it goes back to cybersecurity resiliency. That's my thoughts on it. We won't go down NIST 180 though. It's okay. Eric's like, it'll just keep going. It's going to just spiral down. All right, let's move on. All right. I don't think I have any other questions. I was waiting. Eric, I saw that you asked Navi that follow-up. Navi, we got your question, but just a little clarity if you can follow up on it. I'm not sure what you're wanting here. Is there a doc available you could reference or provide for a vCISO looking to gain experience? And I think this is in reference to just overall, like if you had a virtual CISO and they were helping an organization build a security strategy, are there any references that you could provide to them that they can utilize? Eric, thoughts on this?
No, I'm going to refrain because it may get triggered.
Okay, yeah, no triggering. And I don't have spicy buttons, so.
I mean, I definitely want to know what this person is looking for. I mean, you know, if this is somebody, crap, here we go. Never mind, here we go.
Buckle up, boys.
Oh, and I'm sharing some more links that you guys just shared in the chat. So I'm dropping these in here. Thank you for that. All right. So let's hop into the next discussion. I want to talk about tooling.
Shut down.
We see sometimes in organizations. So I work for a fintech firm, and I won't say the name. I won't shame them, but it's a very large global fintech firm. We had so many pieces of tooling, and we didn't have a SIM at the time. And so you can imagine how hard it was to do analysis of the data that was coming in. And there was like 3 tools that I knew of that were like, I asked somebody, hey, I see this EDR over here. Oh yeah, don't worry about that. That one's just always false positives. And I'm like, well, why don't we turn it off? So I see that. And I've seen that in large organizations, and they think the more that we have, the more secure we're going to be. It kind of goes back to if we spend, 6 or 7 figures on a security program, we're going to be more secure. So what are your guys' thoughts around Eric, around tooling? Like, is more tooling better? Like, how do we get these organizations even out of the thought of like, it's not all about the tools? So Eric, I've got to pass it to you because this seems like this triggers you, and let's get spicy on it.
Oh, here we go. All right, so
and Stefan's over there putting his like,
dude,
yeah,
he's ready to go on the flight line. I tell you what, with those friggin' headphones.
Were those headphones or were those like noise cancelers? They look like noise like he's going to the range.
They're both. They're Bluetooth headphones and mic for the range.
Oh my God. That's why. Yeah, of course.
So he's really rocking it out when he does his pew pew. I got it.
We can talk about this too. You can bring up some costs too. We'll talk about, he's Cyber Insight Canada. So yeah, Eric, talk about tooling, talk about costs. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. So cost is, all right, let's talk about tooling and cost because I do think they go hand in hand. So it was really good time to bring that up. Like we were saying a little bit ago, knowing what's installed on your workstations and your servers and things of that nature, taking your current tools, let's just say you're using a AV, does it have EDR? Does it have this? Does it have that? 9 times we see a lot of people that will just have a problem and go buy a freaking tool to solve that problem. And that tool may do 20 other things like a lot of programs will do, but you just bought it for this one where little did you know you just had to reconfigure your existing tool to properly take care of your problem. Knowing your tools, knowing what their capabilities are, and sometimes you can even talk to your vendor and be like, hey, we really want this implemented in that tool. Is this possible? Most of them have, partner feedback, client feedback, and they build out that's, based on what people want. They build out on the roadmap, and that's how they improve their product. So try to see what they got. So, one of the ones that we put to a couple password managers, we'll use this as an example. I won't say any password managers systems right now, but when you install a password manager, like 1Password, LastPass, Keeper, whatever, granted, it will pull in all of your saved passwords from Windows and all your browsers into it. Great. One central repository for all your passwords. Now, how about disabling passwords inside of those browsers? Disable it for 30 days and then prompt it to purge those stored credentials in your browser. Because a lot of times they still don't change it. So a knucklehead like me doing a penetration test or Stefan doing a penetration test, we can still pull. There's still open source tools for us to pull those passwords, passwords, from your Chrome. It's a SQL-like database. And last I remember, I think it's base64 encrypted. It's been a little while, but it's not hard for us to pull these passwords out of the browser. So, build that in. I know there are some password manager tools that are starting to implement that. So that's a perfect point and example. It's like, let's get rid of this legacy information on this workstation. It doesn't need to be there anymore.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, speaking of browsers? Because I dealt with a lot of
I know
Chrome.
where this is going.
Yeah, I dealt with a lot of Chrome extensions beaconing all the time. Like that was one, oh my gosh, it drove me crazy. And you would go down the rabbit hole just to find out that somebody had an extension on their computer that was like beaking out 1 million beacons like a day. And it was a Chrome extension. Like, how do we combat that? What's your thoughts on that, Eric?
Browser extensions are the devil.
Can I get him bigger? I wanted to like zoom him in where it's just
Enhance.
Yeah, I can't.
Now say
Yeah.
it. Go back. Do it again.
Oh
No,
shoot! Yeah, it's not working. Dang it!
it's just weird because I got you. So those who don't know, I got YouTube over here and just see my face come up like, oh.
Yeah.
But anyway,
anyway,
the browser extensions are the devil.
they are.
There are ways in, again, we'll go back using GPO. No, not GPO. You can do, I believe Intune, but using your EDR to find these browser extensions that are installed to audit that stuff. So it's
tough.
I do know there is a GPO now that I'm thinking about. I think there is one in Intune if you're Azure AD that will allow you to disable any and all extensions in a browser. Of course, that's only for Internet Explorer and Edge. But you can incorporate, especially in a local AD, and I could be wrong, but I do think you can import the Chrome extensions inside to be able to disable that in Endpoint Manager in Intune. So, you know, if you don't need extensions, disable them. Let the user complain.
Yes.
Like, okay, now you give me a case, justified case of why you need to run, my screenshot application browser extension. Tell me why you need that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I always say limit it to like the 3 to 5 that they can download, and that is it. They don't need, like, there was wild things that we would find on people's computers that I'm just like, why is this on here? You don't need this.
Like some super specific cat emoji generator.
Like a background thing, or like it would change the color of their Google Docs, or like random things that you're just like, that we don't need that. Yeah. So, or
if you want to get really paranoid, you've got the Grammarly plugin.
Yeah.
Do you know that's just a keylogger?
And it's it's Ukrainian. Yeah. I love Grammarly. Yeah, I do love Grammarly.
I would never install Grammarly. I seen that and I'm like, that actually makes sense. I'm never installing that.
I love it.
I'll go back
Security
to the question.
Onion. What are your thoughts about security? I'm just kidding. I'm triggered. I'm triggered.
I need to go get something harder for this conversation, gentlemen. I'll tell you what.
Not Doug Burke Security Onion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I look at tooling, I'll give a real world example. I was working for a client a few years ago, and they were looking at going out. They're a big client. They were looking at spending millions of dollars on this internal mapping tool. Millions of dollars. Like they wanted to, they put out an RFP for people to build this internal mapping tool for them. And I was like, why? Because we've got these 3 tools here that all do it. And so I just did a POC internally, printed off the screenshot of the results of the mapping, and I folded it up and I kept it in my notebook, and I made copies of it, and I would just go around in meetings that we weren't talking about mapping at all. I would just put it on the seats of the meeting beforehand, and people were like, "What? Who did? How? What we?" And it would be like, we already have this tool.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the tooling thing, I saw some vCISO stuff here in the chat as well. One of the things that I recommend during what I call like the phase 2 to phase 3 of a vCISO roadmap build, different talk for different day.
Yeah.
So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for Jax. One of the things that I like to do for that is, after you've got a good identify and you've started on the protect phase, is what tools do you have? Where's your gap analysis? Which ones are you paying for? Which ones can be replaced either for cheaper or free or more coverage? And we have those conversations to then go, okay, now we've got our vision, right? We know where the needle needs to be. We're trying to move the needle to get there. And where can we, I don't want to say skimp, but where can we reduce spend or use freeware? And one of the things for more of the mid-sized companies that I recommend to them all the time is go talk with your local security analyst boot camp. Go talk with them. Figure out
like that.
what your local boot camp is training people on, because they're training them almost always on free tooling. And if you really, if you've got the build or buy decision of whether you're going to hire these people yourself or go hand it off to somebody else, to a third party, and you decide that you're going to build this program yourself and you need those people, start going out and getting the free tools that they're already trained on. Because now you've got a talent repository that's local that you can go speak to, you can build a relationship with, you've got people that you can bring into, you've got the free tooling, and now they've already built your training program. You don't have to do that. So finding talent, training talent, you've already knocked that off. Now all you have to do is convince them to come onto you and retain them. So that's one of the things that I like to do and recommend. But again, if security, most SMB, small and mid-sized businesses, most SMB doesn't have the dollars to build a program themselves. And security is the second or third hat of somebody that's just trying to keep the lights on and the grass green, and they're already overworked and they're tired and they're showing up. They're showing up for the Felina patching to make sure that, these exploits in the wild aren't hitting their Office 365 environments. They've got a mountain of work to do and they don't have that opportunity. And so then we circle back and we say, okay, well, if you don't have time and you can't afford to go out and hand it off to somebody else, what can you do? What's your high payoff project? And they usually have a decent understanding of at least the laptops that they have. And we're not going to coach them on, okay, how do you find rogue devices on your Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
They're not there yet. We go, okay. And I often tell them, just start with one, start getting visibility into what you've got, what assets you have. Yeah. If marketing is going out, and it's usually marketing and finance that have all their like their black ops IT spend, right? Go figure out what it is that they're actually doing. We've identified our problem, and now let's get 2FA deployed on all of that, or MFA deployed on all of that, get it into SSO, wrap our arms around identity, and then go, if you're in Office 365 or Microsoft 365, start limiting in there. The stuff, like Eric said, getting Intune and Autopilot so you don't have to do provisioning yourself, limiting restrictions, getting familiar with the different security banners that they have. If you're on like an E3 licensing, going out and getting, oh my gosh, it just came out of beta. They've got like their own little SIM. It's in beta that you can tie in. I don't have my cheat sheet here. I'm sorry. It's not Sentinel.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up.
So just wrapping around, knowing what you've got, knowing all your identities, getting your identities protected, and then starting to scale back from there. And with just IT consulting, like even minimal security, you can get to a pretty decent posture with not a massive lift, without a lot of massive spend. And it's good, right? It's a step in the right direction. And if anything, even if you only raise the barrier to entry to exploitation or ransomware on your system by one notch, you've raised it a notch.
100%. Yep. It's all about those small micro steps. And I think that's so critical for anybody that's watching this, that may be like, maybe you're a virtual CISO, or maybe you have your own small business that you're running. You've got a few employees and you're kind of worried about them having Grammarly on their computer, for example. These small things that you can start implementing, multi-factor authentication, password management, those do not cost that much. And that is going to help reduce your overall vulnerabilities on your network. So just think small level. And then if you need to, like you were saying, Stefan, and I thought that was really, what you were saying was really, really good, because I think a lot of organizations they freak out when they're like, well, I don't know how to do it internally and I don't have enough money to outsource it. And so I think the boot camp was a great resource that you provided. If you have any other resources you can share, drop them in the private chat and I'll share it out. And then I wanted to mention the CISA.
Azure Monitor.
What's that?
Azure Monitor. That's their new SIM that just came out of beta.
Oh yeah, Sentinel. Yeah.
Well, so Sentinel's the top tier one. Azure Monitor is when you can pull in some logs and you can do some association. We were doing a beta test of it a while back, and I switched onto a couple different projects, so I didn't get to see the final results. But Azure Monitor was the one that you get access to it without like the E3 or E5 licensing.
Oh yeah, somebody dropped it in there. I got it. Yeah, Azure Sentinel, very close. Azure Monitor. So I just dropped the link to Azure Monitor for anybody interested in that. And then I'm going to find the link for the CISA list of free cybersecurity cybersecurity tools and checklists. That's another amazing resource. I'm a big CISA fan. So great. I loved all of those. I'm going to pull up a quick question that came in from Cybersecurity Insight Canada. And quick shout out. I love seeing you here. Thank you. We got Canada in the house. So awesome. I love Canada, by the way. Should costs be spent mostly on talent, tools, or both? Should the talent be in-house or sub? And we've kind of touched on this, but I'd like to dive a little deeper. And Stefan, I'm going to bun it over to you. Yeah.
Okay, so this is, whenever I talk about security being an art and a science, this is where we start getting into the art discussion. And for most SMBs, we're talking like 50 people or less, outsource it pretty much all day long. Because, 50 people, even 100 people or less, like you'll often have one, maybe two people, like one person full-time, maybe some interns or a couple other people part-time to do your adds, drops, and changes on the network. So your basic IT functions and, help desk, basically help desk functions, right? And usually what we see is it's about a 10-to-1 ratio of cybersecurity practitioners, one cybersecurity practitioner to every 10 IT people. So until you hit critical mass of being able to hire someone security full-time, I'm not talking like VC-backed SaaS companies, by the way. That's out of scope for this question. That's about the time of when you can start thinking about bringing them in-house. And even then, you've only got them 40, 50, 60 hours a week if you're mean. And if you probably want 24-hour operations. So usually what I say is, what industry are you in? Because that defines who's trying to get you.
Yeah. Yep.
And that defines at least some base level of prudence. And if we're comparing security spend to spending on horses for the Kentucky Derby, you don't have to pay to have the winner. You don't even have to pay to have to make a horse that's going to get to be a finalist.
Mm-hmm.
What you do need is a horse that you can get to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of getting on a scooter. And so that's where, okay, how much do we spend? How do we go? And the answer is often just give it to somebody else that they're the best in the world at. Take it to, I'll stay agnostic. Take it to a couple vendors that you know and or that you can trust. Get third-party opinions of them, evaluate them, see where they are, where they're not. And see if they've got a red team or a blue team and they're going into a do they actually compete in competitions? See how they do. Go watch them. Put them into a head competition. If you're at the point where you know that you're about to have your annual pen test, I recommend this all the time. If I know I'm about to have an annual pen test, I'm going to bring in 2 different defensive providers and see who wins. Have them do a proof of concept while you're going through an attack scenario.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a good idea. Eric, I want to get your thoughts on this too. Should costs be spent on talent, tools, or both?
It would, I think both. It really goes back to what Stephen was saying, and to put, I explain things a lot more technical, so I try not to use big words like my friend Stephen uses and everything like that, a 30,000 foot view. But from my perspective, if you can't resource it internally, then outsource it, like Stephen said. The other thing that Stephen said that I want to really, really hone in on is make sure you're talking to several different vendors before you just outsource it. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many daggum times we get brought into it. It's like, we thought we were doing the right thing. My whatever told me this is the best way to do it. And anybody who works in cybersecurity is like, no, that is the worst way to do this. Yeah. You've got to make sure that you don't partner up with a bunch of yes people just to get your money, right? So,
Yep, 100% on that. I like that. Okay, I want to take a few more questions. I know we're going to be coming up on time soon. I saw a question pop in here from Requiem on, I think it was about when we were talking about Chrome extensions, and he asked, I don't really have a lot of knowledge on Microsoft stuff because I have a Mac, but he's like, how about Microsoft own timer? I guess the Army, this is great. You like this stuff on the Army block the alarms and clock out for no apparent reason. I don't know. They block random stuff. You never know why. But do you guys know anything about this? I don't know anything about this tool, so I can't I can't give you an educated guess on why the Army blocked it. Who knows?
Yeah. So this, in my mind, a lot of this comes down to just, just like a VPN. Who are you going to trust, right? Is it semi-prudent to trust Microsoft? Probably. If you're already in Office 365 and this is the actual Microsoft, not a look-like, but if this is an actual Microsoft extension vetted by Microsoft, and you can look in the updates and it's actually maintained and there have been security updates in it, like, we've got a pretty good, reasonable, like, it's not going to be a huge amount of risk.
But see,
Now,
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, just to interject there, I don't think Microsoft puts any browser extensions out anymore. Now that they have the Microsoft Store fully vetted, I think everything gets pushed over to the Microsoft Store, and there's not.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't have.
Proceed with caution, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm not a Microsoft person. I use Microsoft at my work, and I'm having to relearn it from years of using Mac. But yay!
Oh, you have to get off of Fisher Price. Yay!
Oh my gosh!
I've got all three at the house. So I'm on a MacBook right now. I've got the Windows box, and then I've got Linux.
Yeah, I
need
trilingual. Yeah, you are. That's so funny.
Like, I always forget my screenshot tools. Which
that I get. Yes, I'm still having to try to relearn like the short keys on the Microsoft side. Oh, that's probably what's driving me. And like, screenshots on Microsoft versus Mac. Anyway,
Jerry's in. He's watching.
Oh, hey, Jerry. Welcome to the show.
Spicy.
Okay.
How
about fighting generic group accounts? I think this is a really good question because you do see it a lot. He's like, Requim's talking about, this should be obvious, but he has seen it everywhere that there's been dozens of single accounts set up on applications. This is a tough one to combat.
Yes. So I have the saying that I use a lot, that people are going to do the things that they know how to do the easiest way possible until they're forced to do something different. I can't tell you how many times we walk in, it's like everybody's using the same login to log into a system, and they, that's how they control it. I'm like, no, guys, no. And I mean, so here's where some of the rub is, right? Let's take a manufacturing company, right? If you have a shipping department, that only accesses FedEx labels by scanning something, maybe because they're not really checking email, you have them segmented off.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of where security must meet productivity at the same time. But if you could get away from group accounts, I strongly recommend, because here's the problem that you're going to have. If an incident ever happened, and we're not going to talk about ransom, I'm just talking about like PCI or anything like that. If you have 6 computers all logging as shipping, which person actually did said action?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really hard to track that. I mean, you could track it down to that workstation, that device that did it, but it's really hard.
It is. Yeah. Okay. We're going to pivot a little bit. I want to ask one more question before and we got to show this. This is a good one. I like this. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, always. Yeah. It's all about, okay. Sticky notes and passwords.
Jerry, are you flipping that Post-it note yet?
I love it.
He's probably going to start texting me. Let me look.
I know he should be getting ready for Simply Cyber. I don't know what's going on over here.
He's related. This is better.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I like that, Eric. Yeah. Okay. So if we're talking about security programs, and somebody's watching this right now, what is the first thing they should get as part of their security program? Not do, but get. Should it be an incident response team? Should it be a SOC or a SIM or an EDR? What are your thoughts on that? Stefan, I'm gonna bun it to you. If they could, they had a budget and they could get one thing, what would it be?
Oh, come on. I'm a consultant. And the answer is going to be, it depends.
Auditors and consultants, depends.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll walk through a couple of case studies here real quick. Very brief ones. So if you're like a SaaS startup and you do everything in AWS and all of your entire workforce is remote, there's no VPN because there's because you can do identity prior to even getting into your cloud provider. Then the answer is you probably pull in like guard duty and guard tower and a couple other things internally, and you make sure that your CI/CD pipeline is secure for your go-to-market. So you're using clean images, and you can do a lot of that without paying for anything. If we're talking like a series of mom and pop pizza shops, then they probably already they've got weird VPN controls back and forth all over the place in order to get their point of sale systems and like the little marketing TVs with the menus on top of them. Like you probably want to go with just like a really strong managed EDR type play. If again you're really distributed and you're small, and you do a lot of like say venture capital or private equity, like their biggest targets is going to be try to siphon your invoices. You're going to see an invoice that's not valid, and so you have to have something to like a really tight story around protecting anytime you're going to send money, especially like thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. You have to have a really tight story around that. And there's some vendors that are coming out in that space right now. It's like sometimes it's red, sometimes it's green, sometimes it's blue. We're looking at a rainbow, and you got to pick the color that's right for you for the right day.
That's a good answer. I like that. Eric, can you follow that up?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
go ahead.
If they don't have an incident response retainer, get an incident response retainer.
That's what I was going for. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. They like.
Yes.
Start off with incident response retainer, right? Like, just get one, because it's fully a business decision. It's not a technical decision. It just like the bigger places are going to charge you like $100K a year. As we go down, smaller places, I've seen as low as $6,200 or $6,500 for an incident response retainer for a year. Like, just if nothing else, get somebody that can drop in out of the sky, parachute in, and help out when poop hits the fan.
100%. Yep, that's absolutely right. Eric, now do you want to add anything?
Sure.
Also, speaking of incident response firms, hi, here's Eric Taylor, Barricade Cyber.
Like. And we have.
Yes, I mean, definitely even if you don't call Barricade Cyber, call a company that offers an incident response retainer. When things go bad, or you have questions about things maybe going bad, you don't want to go out and vet 3-5 different companies when you already have one that you've already vetted and they can respond very, very quickly. Outside of that, you make sure that, like we said before, you're implementing zero trust as much as you can. I do know security must equal productivity as you're implementing these things. A great thing to help you get to zero trust is use CIS version 8 controls. There's even an online form where you can start putting your stuff in, and it'll help you generate a report. They try to make it really, really easy. I think CIS is a great starting framework for any and all businesses, right? It'll take you through, it gets you used to putting together frameworks, implementing it into your business. If you need to go down a NIST 800, 171 or 53 or whatever, you've already got that practice, and all of CIS will translate over to another compliancy, ISO, things of that nature. They even have guides. Most of the time they have guides. Oh, if you met 1.3.1 of CIS, it now meets blah, blah, blah of ISO 9000, right? So yeah, DFR frame, DFIR response, zero trust, starting to implement CIS controls, MFA everything if you can, or 2FA.
Yeah.
Always. Sure. And I know there's some things you just can't do 2FA on.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can't, let's talk about replacing it with something that can do it. And let me add one that to complicate your life even more, if I can. If it doesn't need to be reaching the cloud, let's not make it reach the cloud.
Segmentation. That's network segmentation. Yes, let's do it. I love it. Okay, let's do some.
I'm making fun of Jerry via text on the side here.
Yeah, and anybody watching this, Jerry is the content creator, Dr. Jerry Ojen, the chief content creator for Simply Cyber, which we'll be going over there here in a few minutes. He's going to be kicking off his YouTube, so go check it out after we wrap here. Nobody be leaving early. All right, so we're going to be wrapping up actually right now. So let's do some final thoughts. Stephen, final thoughts for the viewers out there.
Yeah, so obviously security is hard. But when you take security and you set a vision for the program, and then you work backwards of how you're going to achieve that vision, you can take what was scary and complex, and you can turn it into a roadmap, which then breaks it down to projects. And once you've broken it down into projects, it's just defining project scope, and it's balancing cost, time, and quality. And now we've got things that we can talk about, right? And using those projects and aligning those projects to increase your security, but also to enable you to go to market and win is key. Because if security is getting in the way of you going to market and win, and you're the department of no, so referencing, David Spark, if you're the department of no, you're going to lose. The question becomes, we can do that if we do this, or we can secure that here. So for anybody that's looking at trying to get into this space, I love this space. 20 years ago, cybersecurity was not a welcoming space. It is now. So go to the conferences, talk to people. And if you are trying to get in the industry, the best thing you can do is network your butt off.
Mm-hmm.
Network your butt off. Put metrics around how much you network. Mm-hmm. You can probably go to at least one local or virtual meetup a week. And every one of those, you can try to find 2 people to have a coffee with throughout the week. At the end of a year, you will have talked with 100 people one-on-one. Maybe you could do 200, maybe you do 300. Half an hour, cup of coffee. Eventually, you'll learn your stories better. You'll learn where you want to go. You'll help pick a career path within cybersecurity industry itself that's going to make you happy in the long run. Because the goal of this is not just to necessarily be secure, but it's to increase happiness with as many people as possible. That's my take and my opinion, and we can argue it all day long.
Yeah, and everybody go find Stephen Semmelroth. I threw his LinkedIn in the chat. You definitely want to follow him. He puts great content out. I also dropped his YouTube. You can just Google his name or search his name in YouTube and you'll find his page. Super easy. All right, Eric Taylor, final thoughts.
The world is on fire.
I know this song.
No, I mean, this is great content. If you all have questions, seriously, reach out to Jax and ask that. Just start asking questions of people, right?
Yep, for sure.
I mean, I don't know a single cybersecurity professional, a true single cybersecurity professional that will not spend 20 minutes out of their day to answer some questions, knowing that they made you a better person and make you more secure. I mean, granted, if ransomware went away tomorrow, that would be a huge impact on my business. But still, I can't tell you how much it hurt. It literally hurts me, because people take these incidents as a personal attack against them, right? If you've built a business, that business is your baby. People lose sleep. I've had people have freaking heart attacks. Please ask somebody. Ask a question. My calendar is on my website. If you can't find anybody, if I can't answer your question, I'll put you in touch with somebody who can. Just start asking questions. Start getting down a more secure path, people. We got to be more secure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you start asking questions and people try to start shaming you, you're not in the right group. Promise you.
Mm-hmm.
You got 3 people right here. Reach out to us, any of us. Eric, Stefan, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to kick you off now and put you in the green room. Laters. Okay, that was awesome. Thank you, everybody. At the number, I'm seeing the viewers, so not a lot of people have dropped off yet for Simply Cyber, but we're going to head over there actually right now. Jerry should be kicking off Simply Cyber. Pretty easy to find it. Jess actually shared the link, so make sure when you go in there, you put hashtag Outpost Gray to let them know that you came over from this show. All right, so anybody that's new here, just to let you guys know, every week I go live on Thursdays from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to provide you information just like you saw tonight. So if you enjoyed this live stream, I would love it if you made sure you liked and subscribed, and then you shared this out with somebody that you think could benefit from understanding how to build a security program. Next week, just so you guys know, I will not be going live on Thursday. However, I will be at RSAC. I will actually be speaking there. I'm going to be doing room hosting, and I'm going to be going live. I'm going to send out an agenda, hopefully by tomorrow. That's my plan. That way you guys can see not only when I'm going live, but who I'm going live with. So you can come on the live stream and you can ask that cybersecurity expert questions in their space. So I'm really excited about that. Right after RSAC, I'm going live again on my Thursdays, and we are doing the Female Voice of Technology and Innovation. It's a highlight series with Outpost Gray, and June is Bridgetta Rubin, and I am so excited. She is an innovator and she is a scientist. If you look at her bio over here, I don't fully grasp what she does. I just know it's remarkable, and she is doing groundbreaking work. She is literally the founder of an engineering startup that merges material science and adaptive insights to create composable capabilities on demand. I don't actually fully grasp what that means. She explained it to me, and I'm like, So we're going to be deep diving into that. She's a remarkable woman. She works at for MITRE. She's been in the cybersecurity and technology space for quite a long time. And then lastly, after that, just so you guys know, I'm going to be taking a 4-week break from going live. I have been afforded an opportunity to go to a TBI clinic for my military brain injury, and I'm going to be there for 2 weeks. I'm actually going to be doing YouTube shorts about my journey around my healing of my military injuries that I have. And so I won't be going live, but I will be sharing with you some authenticity of my background, of my injuries, and going through that. And then I'm going to come back really fresh in July. So stay tuned for that. And again, for everybody that showed up, all my repeat offenders, you guys are the best. I love you. And I will see you guys over there on Jerry's show shortly. Simply Cyber. Bye.